I'm Josh Lane, and welcome to another Tech Tuesday.
I'm Kevin Tharp.
And this week, our topic is virtual reality headsets. And as you can see here, Kevin has the brand new HTC Vive that he bought. I guess I wanted ask you a little bit about your first impressions with VR and how it can be applied teaching classes and how students could interact with it in the future, that kind of thing.
Okay. First off, I'm a gadget guy. I love my gadgets. I love my technology, and I'm always trying new things. And so I've been exposed to a lot of technology before it comes sort of the common thing to have. And of all the things that I've ever tried, I think that the tethered virtual reality system, the HTC Vive in this case, is probably one of the most incredible things that I've ever experienced. I'd heard about it, but nothing that I had heard about it had prepared me for just how amazing it is. And so before I ever even got a chance to see it, I had seen some videos about different software, and specifically I was looking at a video on a program called Tilt Brush that is by Google, and it's sort of like a virtual reality paint program, only a lot more than that. And the first thing I thought is, oh my gosh, I could use that in my classes to help me to explain things in a way that's more engaging. And so that was the impetus for me doing this. And then once I got it and put it on, the very first exposure, which is just a basic training software, the very first exposure, which is low interaction, relatively low immersion, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, this is just absolutely amazing. And so moving forward from there, I decided two things. One, I've got to use this in my teaching. And so I'm starting to, I'm doing experiments every day with how can I use this technology to change the pedagogy, the way that I teach, to make it more engaging and more informative for my students. And the other thing that we want to look at as we're moving further down is, once we have that process established for how we can use this to create artifacts that you can use without wearing it. So that is the key. I'm not going to be able to give all my students access to this. It's expensive, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But it's just not available. So what I'm looking at is, how can I create educational artifacts that I can make available to our students with what is currently mainstream media. And so what we're doing is establishing that process of how do we do that. But the next phase is going to be getting our students involved with this to try and, as a collective group, start looking at how can we use this. Since we're a digital marketing technology program, how can we use this technology as a digital marketing technology so that they can take the artifacts and start using it to help the people that they're working with to do marketing. And so that's what we're looking at in our research and in our teaching. And the response that I've had so far has been pretty good. I'm doing experiments, I call them experiments, every day, where I'm just trying different things. What happens if I do this? How can I do that? What about this feature? And it looks promising.
Yeah, I was just going to say, usually when people hear about VR, the first thing they think about is the Steam games, and that's honestly what I would use it for if I owned one right now. But I think it's very cool when I heard that you were purchasing this for a educational purpose. That just shows, if you're a prospective student interested in this major, it shows me, and I'm a student in the major currently, that you value looking at cutting edge type technologies, or technologies that aren't 100% defined yet, looking at that and trying to use that to see how you can incorporate that into a class or something. I sit and imagine a whole class of like 30 college kids wearing VR headsets and you teaching up at the front in VR. That would be very, very cool. And it's entirely possible, but not right now.
Right.
But once they bring the price point down, if you're able to integrate that into a curriculum and get that approved, You know what I mean? It's a huge, long process. I couldn't see that happening for like 5 years, maybe. You know?
Who's to say? But the thing is that we are stepping out. You know, it's to me, it's obvious that this is going to be a very common kind of technology.
Coming up soon.
Yeah, coming up soon. There's more different systems coming up. The prices are coming down. It's getting to the point where people can start to afford to do this. I think it's going to be a long time before we have what you're talking about, where there's a group of people sitting there doing it. You could also share that same virtual space from not a tangible space, but from anywhere around the world, so that just like they have multiplayer games.
Yep.
They might have multiplayer educational spaces. I mean,
like Skype or something almost.
Right. The limits. I mean, really, we're only limited by our imagination, because this really changes. What it does is it gives us an interface, a richer interface than anything else that we've got exposure to, and so that gives us the ability to get closer to that one-to-one or that face-to-face kind of relationship. And really, when you start thinking about it, it allows us to even go beyond that, because, for instance, I had the other day an idea. It was Halloween, and I thought, what if we gave the perspective from inside the jack-o'-lantern? And so I created a jack-o'-lantern, and then I turned that into a movie that let you see the jack-o'-lantern be created, but then it sort of flipped it on its head, and you were able to come into the jack-o'-lantern and look out through the jack-o'-lantern's eyes. And everything that I'm doing right now is very unsophisticated. But what we're doing is just trying to get to the point where we can see what we can do.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the other VR headsets that are on the market that you can buy right now besides the HTC Vive. So we have the HTC Vive at $799. You can purchase that on their HTC's website. You have the Oculus Rift that I'm sure, if you're familiar with VR, you've heard of that one as well. That one's available for $599. The Sony PlayStation VR was just released, and I see that one's being pushed really hard by Sony and marketed really hard on TV and advertisements, that kind of thing. That's available for $399. Samsung Gear VR, and you said that's an untethered VR headset that you just use with your Samsung device, so like a cell phone, that kind of thing. So it's not, the cords aren't there. It doesn't have to run through your PC.
One of the things that is very cool about this is that you're not just changing what you're looking at from a perspective that you're in. You're moving within a three-dimensional space. So systems like the Oculus and the HTC, they've got sensors within the room so that they establish a space that you can move around in from floor to ceiling. And so you can move around inside of that tangible space. They call it a safe space. But you can also move around within the virtual space. So there's both types of movement there. Whereas I think probably with the Google Cardboard, with the Samsung, you're able to change your perspective of what you're looking at, but you're always from that same location. So you could be walking down the street, and because there isn't that spatiality to it,
you can run.
It wouldn't know. It would just know what direction you were changing.
Yeah, it's just 360. Pretty much 360 up, down, and it's not an actual virtual reality environment. It's just a virtual reality experience, or not experience, but
view. Yeah.
View. Yep, that's how I would say it. And it's still pretty cool, but it's nowhere near this. I would say Kevin gave me the chance to run through some tutorials and get an first-hand experience with his Vive. And the way I would explain it was, it's like being in an IMAX theater, except you're actually in the movie. That's how I would explain it. It's all-encompassing, immersive experience, and it was really cool. And like, you brought me through the brain game, and I've heard from some other people, and can make you pretty sick, if that kind of thing. It's pretty, feels pretty real once you're in there. It's very cool.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed is that when you go into the virtual environment, people bring their coping mechanisms for the real world in there, even though they're not necessary. And for instance, one of the things that I see is people will duck under a line or go around an obstacle. And
instincts, kind of.
Yeah, well, and like one of the cool things is when you're going through some of the training software, it'll bring you up to like the edge of a cliff.
Yeah.
And you get that same gut feeling of, this isn't safe.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
I shouldn't go over there.
Right, I shouldn't go over there because something might happen and I might fall in it. It's so real that it's pretty amazing.
So I just can't wait to see where this goes technologically with games, that kind of thing. But also now that you're working with it going towards using it towards an educational purpose. So that'll be really interesting to see how the price points change. They're gonna go down. And then see what the competitors do differently with each headset. So it'll be really interesting to see. So if you want to check out more of Kevin's VR videos, those are on a couple of them are on our YouTube channel at UW-Stout Digital Marketing Technology. Follow us or like our Facebook page at UW-Stout Digital Marketing Technology Program, and our official blog, UW-Stout Digital Marketing Technology. So I'll see you next Tuesday.